During supper, Jesus got up from the table, took off his outer robe, and tied a towel around himself. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel that was tied around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus answered, "You do not know now what I am doing, but later you will understand." Peter said to him, "You will never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no share with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." I was reading an interesting story this week. It was to do with Gandhi, who is set to become the first non-white person to feature on British currency. The Royal Mint is working on a coin that will celebrate his life. He who employed non-violent resistance to lead the successful campaign for India's independence from British rule, and in turn inspired movements for civil rights and freedom right across the world. Gandhi employed the Indian loincloth in the winter, a shawl both woven with yarn, hand-spun on a traditional Indian spinning wheel, as a mark of identification with India's rural poor. Back in 2007, the United Nations General Assembly declared Gandhi's birthday, the 2nd of October, as the International Day of Non-Violence. I am old enough to remember Richard Attenborough's wonderful 1982 biopic, the film simply called Gandhi, an incredible film that depicted his life and won all sorts of awards, with of course a superb acting tour de force from Ben Kingsley. Gandhi said some memorable things. "You must be the change you wish to see in the world." Hatred can be overcome only by love. Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. There are people in the world so hungry that God cannot appear to them except in the form of bread. And if Gandhi didn't profess a traditional Christian faith, he was certainly deeply influenced by Jesus, not least by his Sermon on the Mount. Gandhi's identification with the poor reminds me of this passage in John's Gospel, where Jesus himself identifies with his disciples as he poured water into a basin and began to wash their feet. Here is a symbol of servanthood, of humility, modesty, and compassionate love. It is a way of life to which we are all called. In this reading, as Jesus shares a simple meal with his friends, as he breaks bread and shares wine, we are then quickly drawn into the drama of Jesus washing their feet. He does this not because he feels he must, or to make some kind of point, but out of sheer love. He loves his friends to the very limit. It is an example of hospitality, service, and sacramental love, where his disciples, his friends, are drawn into the very transforming love of God. We are called, each of us, to live that kind of life, a life of servanthood and compassionate love. It's a scary thought, and it is even more scary to live that kind of life. But it might just change the world.